This is a Nice Guys Patreon exclusive.
Welcome to another Ice Guys NHL team season preview video. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and in this video we are talking Seattle Kraken for the upcoming season. And look, let's be honest, not going to sugarcoat it. You know, it hasn't been a great season for an NHL team when the best thing you can say about it is the elite broadcast of John Forsland, Eddie Olczyk, and JT Brown, which is not good, great. That's a great listen, not good, great listen on the television broadcast. But unfortunately, the results on the ice did not match that for the Seattle Kraken last year. It ended up being a tough season for Seattle, one that obviously resulted in a one-and-done situation for Dan Bylsma, one season and out as head coach of the Seattle Kraken. Like I said, changes once again. And, you know, you don't want to get into this Mike Milbury kind of run like he had with the New York Islanders, where you're firing a coach every year or two. You know, from a stability standpoint, that's not exactly the best thing to try to get, you know, better results. But they end up going to Lane Lambert, who takes over as head coach. This is someone that got an opportunity to be a head coach after the firing of Barry Trotz with the New York Islanders a few years ago. He's been very good in the assistant role. Obviously, was pretty solid as far as working in Toronto as an assistant coach last year under Craig Berube. But like I said, head coach is kind of still up in the air. Kind of a Glenn Gulletson situation part two going on here with Lane Lambert, where we know the guy's been a good assistant. Gulletson was a good assistant in Edmonton, but the head coaching results have left a lot to be desired. And we will see if Lane Lambert can take this Seattle team and lead them to some improvement, which they are going to need if they are going to even contend to make the playoffs this year. Here's the first thing that stands out clearly as day to me about Seattle. Matty Beniers, SOS, where are you, man? We need you. You cannot have your top center with a production type of season offensively like he had last year, with just 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points in 82 games. You need more. You need better. You know, this is a guy that you invested a high level of draft capital in several years ago, number 2 overall, in fact, in 2021. And to live up to that draft position, he's got to be more productive offensively, period, from that top line center spot for the Seattle Kraken. So Matty Beniers having a massively improved season and certainly performing a lot better, producing a lot more. That will go a long way, clearly, to Seattle making improvement. That is almost imperative. That's almost a starting point, in my opinion, for any improvement that the Seattle Kraken make this season. You know, Jared McCann is, you know, proven himself to be, you know, pretty consistent as far as a, you know, 20, 30 goal scorer. If he can hit 40 like he did a few years ago, that would be great. He did fall below 30 goals the last couple seasons. So, you know, you'd like to see a little bit more of that closer to 30 to 40 goal range type of production from him. One positive I can say about Seattle is Kaapo Kakko really seemed to fit in well there. You know, we talk about a guy that, you know, with the New York Rangers, obviously for a guy that was also a first-round pick, you know, really struggled to find his footing, struggled to find his best performances with the Rangers. This is a guy that was expected to be a big-time goal scorer and yet didn't have a single season with the Rangers with more than 18 goals last year for them. But you could see the improvement, certainly, with the Seattle Kraken. He became more of a playmaker, too. People thought of him as a goal scorer. He really improved on the playmaking side of things, setting up his teammates, because he had 30 assists, you know, career best in assists last year, and 44 points, easily his best as far as points as well. So there's signs of, you know, hope and potential here for Kaapo Kakko now as a member of the Seattle Kraken. I like the addition of Mason Marchment. Now he's got to keep his head on straight. He can take some undisciplined, foolish penalties at times. That obviously, we saw that in the playoff run for the Dallas Stars, but obviously he's a very effective player. He gets under your skin. He plays physical. He can score in a variety of different ways. He has improved his offensive game from, you know, obviously started in the Leaf organization. Then he went to Florida, got better there, and then got even better when he got to Dallas. So I like the addition of Mason Marchment. They need a little bit more pushback in their lineup. They got pushed around a little bit. You know, the physical tone wasn't always where you'd want it to be for Seattle last year. So Mason Marchment should help that. Chandler Stevenson, Ellie Tolvanen. You know, Shane Wright is someone that obviously, you know, has been a slow bloomer, if you will, for the Seattle Kraken from where he was drafted. Obviously, first round, 5th overall a few years ago. But we saw improvement in his game, 19 goals, 25 assists, 44 points. Can he take another step is going to be important, but certainly signs of progression for Shane Wright, which is imperative. You've still got veterans like Jordan Eberle, Jaden Schwartz on this team. Ty Cartier is someone that had a great, when they made the playoffs, and Ty Cartier is just jumping into the lineup and producing. You'd like to see maybe a little bit more of that from him this year. Freddie Gaudreau brought in. And then, of course, our guy, Newman. That's right, Yanni Newman, who we saw toward the end of last year with the Seattle Kraken. So he's another guy with some offensive flash. And so when you look at the bottom 6, there's going to be capability to get offense from that group. It's kind of weird. We talk about so many of these teams so far in our preview videos where we like the top 6 and we're concerned with the bottom 6 depth. I actually think you're going to get scoring from the bottom 6 from some of these guys for Seattle, like a Cartier and a Freddie Gaudreau and Yanni Newman and Shane Wright and Eberle and Schwartz could still chip in. It's going to be getting that lion's share catalyst production offensively from Matty Beniers, Chandler Stevenson, on centering those top 2 lines. That's imperative because I think they need more from both of those guys, especially Matty Beniers. That's where Seattle's offense needs to go as far as taking another step. On the blue line, you've got Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, Ryan Lindgren, of course, now moving in here to the Seattle Kraken after splitting the season between the Rangers and the Avalanche last year. Again, one thing that I think Jason Botterill, the new GM of the Seattle Kraken, really targeted, we need more pushback. We need a little more physicality. We need to be a harder team to play against. Mason Marchment helps that. I think Ryan Lindgren is on the blue line is certainly going to help that. For the Seattle Kraken. So you got him now on the blue line. You got Brandon Montour, of course, and then Riker Evans and Jamie Oleksiak. I don't mind the blue line. I don't. And I like the addition of Lindgren because you need a little more physicality back there. So I actually don't mind the Seattle blue line. And then in net, I think this is definitely something you can hold out hope for Seattle is that you really got to see some potential of being a steady, consistent number 1 goalie at this level from Joey Daccord. And Joey Daccord has put in a lot of work in the offseason as far as training regimen and all that. And when you see the numbers he produced last year, 2.75 goals against average, 906 save percentage. In fact, each of his last 2 seasons in Seattle, his numbers have been very good. 2.46 and 916 the year before that with goals against and save percentage for Joey Daccord. So, I like the talent that he has in net. I'm buying into what we've seen from him the last 2 years, Joey Daccord, and I think there's a chance that he can be as good, if not even better. It's not going to be easy to improve on that because his numbers have been good the last 2 years, but he has certainly shown enough that he can play as a regular starting goaltender in the NHL. Philip Grubauer, I don't know what he's got left at this point. He's been around a long time, and we know that going all the way back to his days when he got some starting opportunities in Washington and he posted good numbers. We just haven't seen that consistently here with Seattle. He did have a better season 2 years ago, but then we saw last year in 26 games, the numbers declined, the performance level declined once again for Philip Grubauer with an .875 save percentage and 3.49 goals against average. And again, that's why he's going to have. You can't run Joey Daccord into the ground. But if you're going to make up ground and be a playoff team, you're going to need reliability in the whatever 15 games or whatever amount of games Philip Grubauer gives you in a backup role. And is he going to be able to give you that kind of level of consistency at this stage of his career? I'm not so sure about that. And keep in mind, the guy is now, getting into his mid-30s from an age standpoint. So something to be a little bit concerned about, and certainly needing Joey Daccord to be healthy for sure is going to be important for the Seattle Kraken. The hire, and this is nothing against Lane Lambert, but things kind of went off the rails a little bit when he was with the New York Islanders as head coach. Some guys are better assistants than head coaches, and that still worries me a little bit about the Gulutzan hire with the Dallas Stars. Even though as I said on our Dallas preview, Alex, I'm putting my faith in Jim Nill, that he's made this decision because he knows it's the right decision, even though this is a guy that's had issues, with success as a head coach when you're talking about his time with Dallas and Calgary for Gulutzan. Same thing with Lambert. He's been a good assistant. I think he did a nice job on Berube's staff in Toronto last year. We know he was an assistant all that time under Trotz, whether it was Nashville and the Islanders. But his results as a head coach were not that great. with the New York Islanders, and there's still question about whether this is going to be a good hire and whether he's going to be able to get the job done in a head coaching role here with the Seattle Kraken. So, last year was kind of a bottoming out for them. It just a season that just kind of went sideways for the Seattle Kraken. Normally, new coach, new energy. I like to look at them as a buy low opportunity. But I'm hesitant to do that with this group because of the fact that they're going to need the top six to be much better. They're going to need Matty Beniers to be much better. I don't know if Lane Lambert is going to be the kind of coach that we can trust to take that team to that next level, because he was not able to do that with the New York Islanders. So I'm a mild underlean with the Seattle Kraken. But again, the thing that's keeping me from betting under the point total with the Seattle Kraken is it's on paper a situation where I usually like to buy low on a team coming off, a disappointing season. And normally I like to look for them to improve a little bit and reasons for optimism the next season. But like I said, I think there is still a lot of ground to make up here for this Seattle team. Alex, your thoughts on the Seattle Kraken?
Yeah, this is a Seattle team where, like I said, I'm not crazy about this hire at all. And Lane Lambert, I think he's a great assistant because he can be one of those defensive-minded guys and just focus on the power, on the penalty kill, focus on 5-on-5 on the back end of things. When he's a head coach, he's one of those guys like we talk about with Mike Yeo and Green and some of these other defensive-minded coaches, where if they get into a situation where they're giving up a bunch of goals and not scoring, they will get so heavy in their practices and in their games of clamping down defensively. And now instead of losing 5-2, you're losing 2-1, you're losing 3-1 because you aren't generating offense and you're so focused on playing defense. And it wouldn't shock me if Seattle's in a few of those games this year because they have a decent blue line. They have a capable number one goalie in Joey Daccord. But you have to get better production, like you said, from your top line. The number I'm throwing out is 104. That's the combined number of points you got from both Jared McCann and Matty Beniers. Now, you say Beniers needs that, so I say McCann as well. McCann is the guy, and I'm not just saying this because I bet for him to score 40 goals and bet for him to get 90 points last year. I bet those because I really thought he was going to take that leap forward, and that's what Seattle needed in order for that to be a capable team of making a playoff run. That didn't happen, and so when you're looking at like I said, more offensive punch and more offensive promise from the bottom six and the top six on a consistent level, that's not good. I don't care what your defense and goaltending is looking like, and when you're talking about a Pacific Division that has the bottoms looking better, right? Calgary is not going to be a pushover, even though they might finish last. San Jose is not going to be a pushover, even though they're still rebuilding. Anaheim's a much better team. Vancouver is still floating around in the mix. And then you've got, of course, LA, Vegas, and Edmonton. So I don't see where the progression comes in Seattle's favor this year. I think they kind of stay where they are, if not regress a little bit more. And like I said, the Lambert hire, Bilesma was supposed to change the offense. It was Dan Bilesma, Jessica Campbell, they did such great work in Coachella Valley in the AHL, winning the Western Conference back-to-back years. That was supposed to be the offensive push. They were supposed to play more up-tempo, be more aggressive offensively. They failed on that, and that didn't really work much at all. And so now with Lambert being a more defensive-minded guy, I don't know. I feel like the team, it's hard for them to get an identity because what are you really
lacking
trying
direction,
to do?
lacking identity. You just said
absolutely.
That's
so
what it looks like.
So it's problematic. And 75 points is right around where I can see them finishing. So I can't take a shot over or under with that total, and there's no value in betting them to miss the playoffs. So nothing futures wise to me, but this is a team I'll be fading more than backing during the year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, normally I like to buy low a team like that's coming off the season that Seattle had, but I question the hire. I question, I question Matty Beniers. I'll be honest. I mean, he's got to show it. It's like a prove it to me type of thing now with him. And McCann, saw his numbers decline last year and tank a little bit. So, like I said, they've got to be massive offensive performers for this team if they're going to make that big step forward. I trust their bottom six to score more than their top six this year. Isn't that crazy to say that? But it kind of is with this Seattle Kraken team. And you're right, lack of direction and identity. It's proof that there is a lack of. We don't know what we are. Are we a scoring team? Are we a defensive team? Are we a physical team? What the hell are we? We bring in Bilesma and try to make it all up tempo and be more of a high scoring team last year. And yes, it doesn't go well, but after 1 year, you pull the plug, you tear it down, and now you're starting a different system and scheme. And Lane Lambert's defensive first, so you're going to a completely different type of structure this year. It's just amazing, the 360-degree turn for Seattle, which tells me there's a lack of identity. I don't think they know what they are or what they want to be.
And let's look at the realistic, realism of it all. This is year 5 for this franchise. You've made only one playoff appearance. You did win around in that playoff appearance, but the honeymoon of being an expansion team is over. Now the city of Seattle,
they're looking results on the board. 100%.
Yeah, and listen, you got the Mariners playing well. You got the Seahawks looking decent. They got to bring a winner to that town. And so so Seattle just can't float around at the bottom, pun intended, of the NHL. Just because you're in the league now, you have to try to be competitive. Especially in a very competitive division.
I agree with that fully. And like I said, there's going to be the fan base been pretty solid and pretty loyal and pretty patient to this point. But like I said, patience will wear thin if there's another 2-3 seasons that pass along by and no playoffs there in the Emerald City. So from that
no progression and no playoffs.
That's right.
They say if you're not being a competitive team as well, then that's a problem.
Yep, that's right. As great as Forsland, Eddie O, and JT Brown are, people aren't just going to flock to Seattle Kraken hockey because of the great broadcast. You got to have a great team on the ice.
You have something to watch.
Yep, you do. No question about that. So, like I said, jury out for both Alex and me on the Seattle Kraken this year. There you have it. Great stuff. Talking Seattle Kraken. Make sure you hit the like button. We will wrap up our Seattle Kraken video preview in a moment. But first, we'll hear from our brand new smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys, our friends at Royal Cannabis.
Royal Cannabis, where the kings and queens shop.
Check it out. 20% off, promo code Ice Guys at royalcannabisshop.com. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. This has been your Seattle Kraken season preview video as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along, courtesy of the Ice Guys.